Do you ever feel like playing an enchanter support is useless, specifically JANNA? Well, you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to share some tips and tricks that helped me become the #1 JANNA player on the Singapore server in just 2 months of climbing rank. From mastering her kit to understanding macro, I'll walk you through the secrets and strategies that took me to the top. Whether you're looking to up your support game or you're just curious about the grind, stick around, this one's for you. So why should you play JANNA? Well, one thing for sure is that her pros outweigh her cons. So let's start with her cons first. She has a weak laning phase versus other supports. She has bad engage. Her pros though, she has good disengage, high movement speed from her boots and her W passive Zephyr. She has lots of CC, lots of roam potential, and her feet. So let's start off with her kit. Her passive is Tailwind. JANNA grants 6% bonus movement speed to her nearby allied champions that are facing in the direction of her location, and her basic attacks and Zephyr deal bonus magic damage equal to 30% of her bonus movement speed, which is why movement speed is a very good attribute on her, and we will talk about it more later in the video. Her Q is the Tornado, where JANNA summons a whirlwind at the current location that charges up over 3 seconds, increasing its range, speed, damage, and knockup duration the longer you charge it. Her Tornado's direction is determined by where you cast it, and this can be used as an engage or disengage depending on the situation. Her W is Zephyr, which has a passive where JANNA is ghosted and gains bonus movement speed. This can be very useful for roaming in general, and also not having to worry about creep blocks. Besides that, her W active sends out an air elemental at the target enemy that deals magic damage and slows them for 2 seconds, and it is capped at 99%. Her E is just a basic shield that can target champions and turrets, which lasts for 4 seconds and also provides bonus attack damage to the target you are shielding. It also has a passive where 20% of the shield cooldown is refunded whenever you slow or knock up an enemy champion, so her Tornado and ult can help reduce this cooldown. Her ultimate is Monsoon, where she unleashes a blast that knocks back all nearby enemies to up to 875 units over 0.5 seconds based on their proximity, but it cannot knock enemies over walls. She also heals herself and her allies for the entire duration you are casting her ultimate. Here are some tips and tricks with her abilities that I tend to do in my games. The first one is a Flash R Insect. It's pretty straightforward, just flash behind an enemy and ult them into your tower. The second one is just a Flash R into Q. This is much harder to do, and I tend to avoid it since it's pretty risky, but basically just charge up a Tornado, then Flash R an enemy into the Tornado after it goes off. Number 3, when an enemy is chasing you, it is likely that they are chasing you in a straight line. So just charge the Tornado in the direction that you're running, and possibly you can get a longer knockup with your Q, and that will give you a higher chance of escaping. Now let's start off with some tips and tricks for laning phase. First one would be charging a Tornado in a bush or behind a wall, pretty straightforward. Just charge up a Q and release it when an enemy is in range and knock them out with the Tornado. Number 2, use your autos. They do damage, especially from your passive. A lot of JANNA players play very safe, and in my opinion that's not the right way to play her. You should definitely be aggressive unless it's against a Pike or a range poke support. Most of the time, if you're laning against someone like a Braum or Leona that are melee, you should always go for autos. Just auto W auto them. Pretty simple. Number 3, you should always push the wave level 1. It is much harder for your AD to play the lane when your minions are perma pushed underneath your tower, and also if you get level 2 first, you can definitely do a decent amount of damage to enemy laners. Number 4, jungle track. It is very helpful to know where the enemy jungle and your jungle is. Whenever you see the enemy jungle on the map, make sure you remember where they last were. If you know the enemy jungle starts bot side, they will most likely full clear to top, or instead they will level 3 just gank you. And the same thing applies to your jungler. Number 5, keep track of objectives. Now with the feats in Season 15, they give you the upgraded boots, you should always play for objectives. Lastly, if your ADC is doing okay in lane, and you feel like you don't have that much impact in lane, look to roam. Remember that your champion is not that good in lane, and you are better off roaming and making an impact somewhere else on the map. Once we enter the mid/late game, we should always start playing for vision. Start warding objectives before they spawn, try not to ward alone, have one of your teammates follow you when you ward, and don't forget to use your Q to check pushes first. Besides that, play a little safer. It's now the mid game, and a lot of champs can one-shot you at this point. And lastly, know your carries or win con on your team, and play around them. As a support, you need to provide vision on the map. Always ward the enemy jungle before objectives, and ward your lane during laning phase. If you are playing against a Fiddle or a Nunu, you should always deep ward, because if you just ward normally, it will be already too late once they start engaging. Also, when you ward a bush, make sure that you're utilizing your Q to prevent enemies from just one-shotting you. Do not face check bushes, as you are squishy and your team can lose fights if you are not there to peel or disengage. Before you ward a bush, make sure to charge up a Q and then release it while you go to ward. And here are some spots that you should know to ward as a support. Now let's move on to probably the most important part of this guide, roaming. Roaming is the most important part of JANNA, and it is where her movement speed comes into play. So here are some tips that I use when roaming. Number 1, check objective timers. You should always know when the next objective is up, and you should know your timers and play accordingly. If your jungler wants to get grubs, ping your AD and tell them you're roaming so they know beforehand. Number 2, stay out of vision. Whenever you see an enemy ward in the bush, always ping it so you know where on the map is warded and play around it. Most of the time, enemies won't expect a JANNA to just randomly be top at level 3, and if you play it right, you're guaranteed a flash or if not a kill. Number 3, look at lanes and your teammates' health. If your mid laner is low on health, the enemy mid laner is also probably going to be low. The same thing works with top lane. If the bush isn't warded, you could go in for a long range Q and potentially get a kill. Lastly, listen to pings. If your team pings an enemy, it could potentially be a kill, so just be aware on the map and judge whether you can make a play over there or not. Now let's move on to the final part of the guide, which is the build. On my first pack, I always get a boots, a red trinket, and a ping. I also buy a dark seal if it's possible, but if I can't afford it, I will just get it on my next pack. The support item that we will upgrade into will be Dreammaker. And then our first item is Boots of Swiftness, and then we'll move on to Moonstone Renewer, and then Redemption, and get Dawncore as our last item. And anywhere throughout the game, if you are snowballing, you should always get Magi's. Now let's move on to the runes. I take Summon Airy as it helps amplify your damage and healing / shielding. Mana Flow Band helps you with your lack of mana in the early game. Celerity boosts up your movement speed. And Scorch is good for poking, but if you feel like the game is going to drag on for a while, Gathering Storm is also a good option for late game scaling. Font of Life will proc a lot as most of your abilities slow or knock up, and this will help heal you and your nearest most wounded allied champion, which works well for this build as we are focusing on healing / shielding peel. And Revitalize increases your healing and shielding and will scale well with your build. So with these items and your runes, you will definitely become a monster late game with your peel, and your teammates will be super hard to kill. And that wraps up this JANNA guide. Whether you're peeling for your carries, setting up clutch disengages, or making game-winning plays with Monsoon, I hope this guide helps you level up your support gameplay, and if you found this helpful, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe for more league content, and leave a comment if you have any questions or just want to share your own JANNA tips. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all on the Rift.